Behind Hollywood's golden glow lurked secrets darker than any thriller script. Tonight, we unravel whispered rituals, cursed objects, and fame traded for forbidden power. Each story peels back velvet curtains to reveal black candles burning in the wings. Hit subscribe now, because some legends refuse to stay buried. Jane Mansfield. Gossip rags in the late 1960s whispered that the blonde bombshell's leopard print bedroom hid an altar of black candles and a silver dagger gifted by Church of Satan founder Anton LaVey. Mansfield, forever chasing fresh headlines, allegedly joined LaVey's midnight rituals to keep her name aflame in a town that tosses starlets aside at 30. Friends said she begged the spirits for eternal sex appeal and a little curse to derail rival Mamie Van Doren's career. The stunt worked too well. Studio bosses recoiled at photographs of Mansfield in a priestess's cloak, and a half-booked comedy tour evaporated overnight. How did Hollywood learn? A paparazzo climbed a tree outside her San Francisco hotel and snapped a blurry shot of Jane pouring crimson potion over a wax doll. The image hit tabloid covers under the headline "Playboy Witch," and sponsors fled. Her final B-movies went straight to drive-ins, proof that the magic she chased to stay famous had ironically hexed her own career. Sammy Davis Jr. The Rat Pack's smoothest singer stunned friends in 1968 when he staged candlelit reversals in his Hollywood Hills den, chanting Latin over black mirrors. Sammy's hidden fear was that throat nodules would end his voice. A Vegas magician convinced him a left-hand ritual could bind the illness. Sammy wore a tiny inverted pentagram under his tux during shows, certain it powered his silky high notes. Yet word leaked after a housekeeper found wax effigies of critics who'd called him second-rate. Gossip columnist Rona Barrett printed the scoop, and Baptist groups picketed his concerts. Record sales dipped, and bigoted talk show hosts labeled him the Devil's Minstrel. Davis publicly shrugged it off, but friends whispered he never hit the same effortless falsetto again. Proof, perhaps, that fear, not demons, finally stole his voice. Bela Lugosi. By 1931, the Hungarian immigrant had welded his identity to Dracula, but fame came with nightmares and morphine shakes. Desperate, Lugosi visited an obscure Pasadena occultist who promised a blood pact to trap the role forever in Bela's grasp. In a moonlit seance, the actor signed parchment with a drop of his own blood, swearing loyalty to all the dark corners of stage and screen. For a while, it worked. Universal Pictures rang non-stop. Yet studio janitors discovered charred animal bones in Lugosi's dressing room furnace, and rumors of black magic raced through the lot. Producers, suddenly wary, recast later monster pictures with Boris Karloff. Reporters framed Lugosi as a real-life vampire until morphine addiction eclipsed everything. The pact he made for eternal stardom chained him instead to a single coffin-shaped role he could never escape. Mae West. Sultry, self-made Mae West swore she'd never let censors, or time, win. At 55, she hired a Haitian mambo to perform clandestine glamour rites in her Ravenswood apartment, hoping to freeze wrinkles and keep suitors 30 years younger. She lit violet candles and buried a mirror face down in her rose garden to hide age from the public eye. When crew members found odd dolls pierced with gilt pins on the set of Myra Breckenridge, whispers erupted. Columnist Luella Parsons fanned the flames, calling West a voodoo vamp. The scandal thrilled viewers, but terrified insurers. Studios tacked hefty morality clauses onto her contracts, and big projects dried up. West leaned into the legend, selling autographed crystal balls on tour, but Hollywood's new guard quietly shut its golden doors. Theda Bara. Fox Studios built Theda Bara's 1915 persona on Egyptian smoke and devilish coal, but the actress herself allegedly embraced the darkness backstage. Seeking to stay atop silent film's fickle heap, she consulted Los Angeles occultist Professor Chiro, learning sigils said to bind the breath of rivals. She carved these glyphs on props and even the camera tripod during Cleopatra. A startled grip exposed the markings to the press, and the nickname Vamp suddenly felt literal. Religious groups demanded bans. Theaters in the Midwest refused her films, slashing profits. Bara's final attempt at a comeback in 1926 fizzled when frightened investors pulled out. convinced the set was cursed after a prop snake burst into flames. The magic she etched in desperation signed her exit slip from stardom, and her reels soon crumbled into nitrate dust, just like the spells she once believed would make her immortal. Rudolph Valentino. Long before gossip tabloids, fans whispered that the Latin lover spent moonless nights conjuring spirits with his mystic wife, Natasha Rambova. Valentino feared that studio chiefs would swap him for a younger heartthrob, so Rambova bought an antique silver ring said to lock destiny. The pair performed candlelit rites in their Beverly Hills villa, asking unseen forces to make Rudolph's image eternal. Yet the ring came with rumors of a blood price. 2 friends who tried it on died suddenly. A nervous valet kept a diary and later sold pages to photoplay, exposing seances, strange Latin chants, and a black velvet altar hidden behind a bedroom mirror. Church groups decried Valentino as a devil worshipper. Paramount quietly limited press tours, afraid Middle America would boycott. After his shock death at 31, reporters revived the cursed ring story, cementing the idea that the magic he welcomed for everlasting fame instead demanded his life in return. Marlene Dietrich. In the 1930s, Dietrich dazzled as Hollywood's icy goddess, but mirrors terrified her. Convinced that youth was slipping away, she hired Berlin occultist Erich Hanussen to teach shadow rites that could freeze time. Every new moon, she lit black candles, recited German incantations, and smeared rose oil mixed with a single drop of her blood across photographs of herself. A curious stand-in found the blood-stained pictures and leaked them to columnist Hedda Hopper, who ran the headline, Dietrich's Dark Beauty Secret. Outrage followed. Catholic groups protested outside theaters, and one studio postponed her next picture, fearing backlash. Marlene denied everything, yet began sporting crucifix earrings in public, damage control that fooled few. Though her career survived, co-stars swore she never allowed an uncovered mirror on set again, as if convinced that the spell would shatter the moment she saw a wrinkle. Errol Flynn. Swashbuckling Flynn performed his own stunts and nursed bruises few doctors could fix. A Jamaican deckhand told him about obeah, rituals that grant invulnerability, and Flynn, always courting danger, agreed to try. A dawn ceremony aboard his yacht involved goat's blood and burying a silver cutlass under the mast. Weeks later, the deckhand quit, leaving the blood-stained blade in a locker, where a cleaning crew discovered it. Los Angeles Herald splashed the story. Captain Blood and Real Black Magic plot. Flynn laughed it off, yet Warner Brothers insurers hiked premiums and forced stunt doubles on future shoots. Fans loved the scandal, but directors complained he'd grown reckless, believing no sword or fall could harm him. When a crash during the Seahawk shattered his ankle, crew members murmured that the spirits had finally collected payment for Flynn's borrowed luck. Gloria Swanson. After the stock market crash gutted her fortune, Swanson sought mystical insurance against poverty. She visited a New Orleans root worker who mixed a prosperity powder of grave dirt, cayenne, and gold flakes. Swanson sprinkled it in studio offices, chanting for producers to see only gold when they looked at her. Months later, an accountant noticed odd stains on contracts. Lab tests traced the powder to human ash. Word leaked, investors panicked, and United Artists slashed marketing for her comeback film, Queen Kelly. Furious, Swanson denied necromancy, but quietly paid hush money to a janitor who'd spotted her midnight rituals. Though she later reinvented herself on the lecture circuit, Hollywood's moguls never forgot the ashes under her fingernails. Clara Bow, America's original it girl, burned bright and fast, yet behind the carefree grin hid terror of abandonment. When gossip about her illegitimate childhood resurfaced, she turned to a Santa Monica occult shop, promising a binding of loyalty. Bow pricked her finger, wrote studio boss B.P. Schulberg's name in blood, and folded the paper into a black silk sachet she wore under costumes. A projectionist she once dated stole the sachet and sold it to Confidential magazine, which ran lurid photos of Bow's love curse. Fan clubs split. Some defended her desperation, others mailed hate letters. Paramount canceled a lucrative endorsement deal. Nervous executives labeled her unstable, accelerating her exit from talkies. Bow retreated to a Nevada ranch, convinced the spell backfired. Hollywood stayed bound, but only to the rumor of her downfall not the career she hoped to save. Lon Chaney Jr. The son of Man of a Thousand Faces, Lon Chaney Jr. felt Hollywood judged him a pale echo of his legendary father. While shooting The Wolfman in 1941, he confided to a Romani fortune teller that he feared fans would forget him once monster makeup came off. She offered a moonlit rite said to stitch a beast spirit to his soul, guaranteeing permanent fascination. Chaney spilled a vial of his own blood onto a silver wolf amulet and buried it beneath the oak outside stage 12. Crewmen later dug up the charm, now crusted black, and rumors of real lycanthropy streaked across the lot. Universal Pictures leveraged the gossip, but church leaders condemned the blasphemous publicity stunt, and PTA groups pushed boycotts. Casting agents labeled him unstable, and serious dramatic roles vanished. Chaney spent the rest of his career locked inside fursuits and fangs. Proof that the magic meant to make him unforgettable forever welded him to a single howl, Veronica Lake. By 1944, Veronica Lake's peekaboo bang was a national craze, but war-era bosses forced her into morale tours she loathed. Exhausted, she visited a Haitian mambo backstage at the Hollywood Canteen, seeking a sweetening spell to make officers adore her without draining her spirit. The mambo brewed rum, honey, and gunpowder, instructing Lake to whisper the serial numbers of bombs rolling off West Coast assembly lines. Lake complied, believing it harmless. Weeks later, jittery stagehands found burnt ration coupons and a doll in navy dress blues impaled with hat pins. A columnist printed the discovery under Blonde Bombshell's bomb curse, and military wives burned Lake's pinups in protest. Studios, terrified of alienating servicemen, slashed her salary and paired her with lesser co-stars. The actress who once outshined torpedoes was quietly torpedoed herself, an ironic casualty of the very spell meant to keep her glowing. Peter Lorre. Typecast as Hollywood's creepiest villain, Peter Lorre dreaded that his wide-eyed menace would doom him to B-pictures. In 1946, he sought Hungarian occultist Andras Nagy, who promised a mirror binding that would force producers to see undiscovered facets in Lorre's face. At midnight, the actor breathed onto a black obsidian mirror, spoke his birth name backward, and smashed the glass, releasing, Nagy warned, a twin spirit, hungry for roles. A week later, a wardrobe girl sliced her hand on a shard hidden in Lorre's coat pocket, and word of cursed glass spread. B-movie sets suffered fluke fires and prop malfunctions whenever he arrived, fueling gossip that Lorre carried shards everywhere to sabotage rivals. Insurance premiums soared, and prestige directors refused to risk the mirror fiend. Lorre's dream of dramatic respect dissolved into the smoke of his own superstition. He remained forever the eerie silhouette audiences feared, Dolores del Rio. Gorgeous, poised Dolores del Rio watched Eurocentric casting shut Latin actresses out of lead roles. In 1938, a Santeria priestess near Echo Park offered hope, a secret Oshun ceremony to flood her path with golden opportunities. Dolores poured honey and river water over a carved pumpkin representing studio mogul David O. Selznick, chanting Yoruba prayers until dawn. Weeks later, she indeed landed coveted scripts, but a disloyal maid sold photos of wax heads and feathers floating in Dolores's bathtub to Hollywood Reporter. Catholic groups cried witchcraft, and the Mexican press accused her of insulting faith. Selznick, fearful of Midwest backlash, quietly recast her part in Rebecca, and other offers shrank. Though she reinvented herself in Mexican cinema, Hollywood's gates clanged shut, proving the river she summoned washed opportunity away as quickly as it came. Tallulah Bankhead. Brash, chain-smoking Tallulah Bankhead feared fading into radio anonymity once the talkies cooled. In 1949, she hosted infamous midnight salons where poets, painters, and one self-styled Crowley disciple invoked Pan the Goat God for eternal creative fire. Guests signed a parchment in wine and opium, then crouched inside a chalk circle while Bankhead read erotic verse. A junior reporter crashed the party, snapping photos of goat skulls and a naked statuette crowned with Bankhead's pearl necklace. Life magazine headlined the expose Sin in Sunset Towers, and sponsors bolted from her NBC show. Ever the exhibitionist, Tallulah quipped, "My dear, the devil has better press agents than I do." But her phone stopped ringing for film roles. The spell for endless inspiration instead sealed her legend as Broadway's wicked anecdote. Glorious on cocktail napkins, exiled from camera lenses forever. James Dean. Restless and superstitious, Dean grew obsessed with safeguarding his meteoric rise in 1955. Friends said he pored over Aleister Crowley's magic in theory and practice between racetrack sessions, desperate to bind luck to his beloved Porsche Spider. One stormy night in Laurel Canyon, he chalked a protective circle, pricked his thumb, and dripped blood onto the car's silver hood ornament while whispering, "You and I are one till fame turns to dust." A neighbor's teen, spying through the fence, blabbed at school, and within days, a confidential stringer printed "Rebels Occult Pit Stop." Warned by Warner Brothers to cool the rumors, Dean shrugged. Yet crew noticed he now carried a talisman etched with planetary sigils. When his fatal crash followed weeks later, the bloody ritual morphed into legend. Did the spell backfire, or had Dean tried to chain death itself? Insurance firms cited occult recklessness to deny payouts, and studio lawyers scrambled to soothe sponsors. Dean's quest for invincibility became the chilling epilogue to Hollywood's most tragic shooting star. Joan Crawford. Perfectionist Crawford feared that gossip about her iron discipline made colleagues plot against her. In 1942, she hired a Beverly Hills medium who prescribed a mirror box curse. Joan was to place rivals' publicity photos inside a black wooden cube, pierce them with silver pins, then seal the box with red wax engraved with the sigil for silence. Crawford performed the rite beside a lavender-scented fire, convinced it would mute malicious tongues. Weeks later, a maid accidentally broke the lid and found the pin-riddled faces of Bette Davis and Greer Garson. Shocked, she sold the story to columnist Luella Parsons, who splashed "Crawford's witchy war on rivals" across Sunday pages. Audiences thrilled, but MGM bosses panicked about on-set morale. Crawford's next two pictures lost marquee billing, and her contract slid toward buyout. Though she rebounded with Mildred Pierce, the image of Crawford gently twisting silver pins never quite faded, forever tinting her legend with eerie velvet darkness. Bette Davis. Legend claims Davis refused to leave her Oscar wins to chance. In early 1939, she consulted a Cuban Santero who promised a golden road spell, anoint each award ballot with oil mixed from marigold petals and dried rooster heart. Davis, ever bold, allegedly sneaked into the Academy office after rehearsal, daubing the concoction on envelopes while reciting psalms backward. A janitor caught a whiff of odd spice and reported her to studio security. Soon, Variety headlined, "Did Bette hex the Oscars?" Warner Brothers spun it as a prank, yet rival nominees fumed, whispering Davis had crossed a line between talent and trickery. Though she still clutched the statuette for Jezebel, some critics branded her victory tainted by tropical sorcery. Casting offers cooled briefly, and Davis doubled down on virtuosic roles to bury the rumor. In interviews, she laughed, "You can't hex hard work," but insiders swore she kept a tiny rooster charm on her vanity, just in case the Academy gods ever grew deaf again. Pola Negri. After Rudolph Valentino's death shattered her heart, Polish diva Pola Negri spiraled into grief and darker pursuits. In 1927, she sought a Pasadena necromancer who claimed he could bridge sunsets and souls. Negri commissioned a midnight graveside rite at Valentino's crypt, rosewater, violin music, and a black silk scarf tied to a dove's feet, released to carry messages between worlds. Reporters staking the mausoleum snapped grainy photos of candles and arcane symbols, running headlines like "Widow in spirit only, but witch in truth." Fans who once swooned now rung rosaries, and Paramount balked at her next lead, fearing Middle America boycotts. Negri's U.S. career dimmed. She retreated to Europe, followed by whispers that the dove returned each anniversary, battered wings tapping on her window for entrance. The magic meant to resurrect love instead laid her Hollywood prospects in the same marble silence as Valentino, Orson Welles. Ever the showman, Welles craved genuine dread for his 1948 Macbeth, shot on a shoestring at Republic Studios. He imported two West African Gangas, who built a bone-littered altar beneath the soundstage catwalk, chanting for storms that would thunder on cue. Welles joined every dusk, smearing stage blood on a ram skull while begging the spirits for reviews as thunderous as the skies. A grip, lowering lights, fell through a trapdoor onto the hidden shrine and fled screaming. Word raced to the Hollywood Reporter. Citizen Kane's darker lens. Welles dabbles in juju. Protestant groups threatened boycotts. Republics slashed the ad budget, and critics arrived primed to snicker. The film opened to puzzled audiences and limp box office, its eerie authenticity overshadowed by rumors of real witchcraft on celluloid. Welles defended the rituals as method set dressing, but major studios, wary of backlash, steered clear for years. His gamble for raw power summoned only financial famine, proving some curtains are better raised by stagehands than spirits. Boris Karloff. No one wore a monster's face like Boris Karloff, yet the man beneath the green grease paint was terrified that Frankenstein's fame would trap him forever. In 1934, he visited an English occultist who claimed a shadow exchange ritual could siphon typecasting into an effigy. Under a foggy moon, Karloff molded a small clay figure, pressed his thumbprint onto its brow, and sealed it in a cedar box lined with grave soil. Months later, curious stagehands pried the lid open and found the doll rotting with black mold, while Karloff battled a sudden, unexplained fever. Variety printed, "Did Boris box up his own soul?" Church groups decried him, and Universal executives hesitated before offering Bride of Frankenstein. The pact backfired. Instead of freeing him, the ritual welded Karloff tighter to horror. Though he smiled through interviews, friends swore he kept the cedar box under lock and key, certain opening it again would finish the job the mold had begun. Elsa Lanchester. Renowned for her electric scream in Bride of Frankenstein, Elsa feared her youthful spark would fade under Hollywood's brutal lights. A herbalist on Melrose Avenue whispered a hemlock glamour charm, black candles, crushed nightshade petals, and the actress's own hair braided into a doll. Elsa performed the rite before dawn, begging the spirits for an eternal charge in her eyes. Weeks later, a wardrobe girl found the nightshade bundle beneath Elsa's vanity and fainted from the fumes. Gossip columnist Hedda Hopper pounced with Bride Turns Witch, and mothers' groups urged boycotts. Producers grew skittish, roles grew smaller. Though Elsa laughed it off, she began signing autographs in lavender ink, symbol of purification, hoping to bury the rumor that the same spark animating her on screen might be poisoning her future. Vincent Price. By 1953, the cultured art collector felt pigeonholed as a cobweb-throned villain. To deepen his sinister aura and secure higher pay, Price bought a medieval grimoire from a Parisian bookseller. Late nights in Laurel Canyon, he traced alchemical sigils in salt across his study floor, chanting Latin verses to ensnare an audience's terror and coin in equal measure. A prank-minded neighbor glimpsed the salted circle under flickering candelabra and tipped photoplay. Headlines shrieked, "Vincent's very personal House of Usher," sparking both fascination and fear. Box office receipts for House of Wax soared, but mainstream sponsors yanked radio deals worried wholesome listeners would flee. Price leaned in, writing cookbooks laced with playful potions, yet serious stage directors avoided him, claiming his presence made rehearsal halls feel damp and grave cold. George Reeves. Trapped beneath Superman's cape, Reeves longed for the serious roles Hollywood denied him. A mystic in Chinatown offered a ritual to invert the hero's shadow, promising Reeves the gravitas of Hamlet. At midnight, the actor burned miniature paper capes, chanting to sever the world's childish image of him. But two extras stumbled upon scorched red cloth in the studio sink and spread rumors that Superman is hexing himself. Parents' groups panicked. Producers feared children might abandon their idol. Network executives slapped Reeves with morality clauses and even heftier cape contracts. The hero who tried to escape mythology found himself doubly chained, and when he died under mysterious circumstances in 1959, tabloids asked if the spell hadn't only inverted his image, but fortune itself. Hedy Lamarr. The Viennese beauty was lauded for brains and face alike, yet wartime xenophobia shadowed her. Seeking protection, Lamarr studied an old Kabbalistic text, convinced a sigil of concealment could hide her from studio spies leaking scripts to tabloids. She etched the sigil, interlocking Hebrew letters, into a gold compact mirror and whispered prayers each time she applied lipstick. A gossip photographer, snapping her purse, captured the engraved mirror and sold the close-up to True Confessions, Hedy's secret star of dark power. Fans speculated wildly, and MGM's publicity team scrambled to label it just an Art Deco doodle. Still, executive Irving Thalberg privately warned Lamarr that politics and sorcery made a combustible mix. Invitations to A-list galas slowed. Ironically, the charm meant to shield her secrets instead spotlighted them, leaving Lamarr to retreat to her workshop, where she invented radio-guided torpedo tech, a very real magic Hollywood never fully appreciated. Old Hollywood glimmered with stardust, but tonight we've seen its shadowy underside. Some conjured spirits, some sealed their fate, all paid the price. If you felt that chill run down your spine, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Stay curious, stay brave, and keep the lights on for more mysteries.